At Primalhacker, we test, vet out, and experiment with only the best products on the marketplace. In fact, we recommend very few products. If there's a product that we're recommending in front of this podcast, it's because we've tried it, experimented with it, and found that it truly does what it says. And the benefit is so important, we want to share it with all of you.
What if I told you the most powerful biohack you're missing isn't another supplement or gadget? This might sound a little cliche, but the best thing for you and your body is sleep. But not just any sleep. Deep, restorative sleep that supercharges your mind and body. You're doing red light therapy, nootropics, cold plunges, but not hitting that quality sleep you need to feel refreshed in the morning? Lack of sleep can crash your cognitive function, slow your recovery, and wrecks your hormone balance. So how do we biohack sleep without pills or gimmicks? The short and simple answer is Soltex Sleep Solutions, the next level in sleep tech. It uses proprietary biofrequencies to guide your brain into deep delta wave sleep where real recovery happens. No chemicals, no side effects, just pure natural sleep optimization. And it adjusts in real time to your sleep cycles, creating a fully personalized experience every night. This isn't guesswork, it's science. Soltex frequencies help quiet the nervous system, reduce stress, and push you into that critical deep sleep stage. More sleep means faster recovery, stronger immunity, better memory, and yes, limitless energy. Imagine waking up fully charged every single day. How does that feel? You ready to unlock the next sleep level and transform your nights? Use our exclusive discount code to get 10% off your Soltex Sleep Solution. Don't just optimize your day, biohack your night. Sleep smarter and live stronger. This video is made by Primalhacker team, and we'll see you on the next level. Hey, it's Jackson. Welcome to the Primalhacker Podcast, where we unravel the truth of the mind and hack your health. This episode and any episode can be found here or on YouTube. You can also check out primalhacker.com for glasses, merch, programs, anything else you may be looking for. Now let's get started with host Thaddeus Owen and co-host Heidi Syme.
Who is Chris Crawford?
I am a healer of hearts. That's who I am. You know, I'm a healer of hearts. And, I think we run around trying to find our purpose in life. And I think my purpose is just to be here and to love with all of my heart and to not be in judgment of anybody or anything. And that's been an unfolding in my life, right? And at some point, I became very aware of my heart. I mean, I used to have other titles. I mean, I used to be a psychologist. I used to be a professor, and I retired in 2017. And I had been playing with energy since about 2012, learning Reiki and becoming a Reiki master and, just doing different things with different people. And after I retired, I started asking this question, like, anything that's the limitation of me, I'm going to let it go now. And I said that every day to myself for probably over a year. Right?
Okay, say it again. Say it.
Like I said,
what is
all the definitions of Chris, creating the limitations of me, right? Meaning the real me. Like all the definitions of Chris, creating the limitations of me, I'm going to let it go.
I'm going to let it go.
Yeah. And then I would do these wild things like this. Look. Like, I'd be flailing my hands around and just letting it go, right? And every morning I woke up and I did that. And it just felt like I was doing it for a really long time. And
Huh.
one morning I woke up and I did it. And I realized that all those titles
Yeah.
that I had that I'd worked so hard for were not me. And I let it go. I
Wow.
ceased renewing my license. Uh, I just let all of that stuff go.
What was it a psychology field or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I was licensed. And I think I'd already done all my continuing ed credits and all that stuff.
Wow.
And it's all I had to do was pay my $300 for the whatever to renew my license. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm done with that. And that was that. And I just let it go. And I think that was really the beginning of a new part, when you could be without definition of yourself,
Mm.
right? And then around that same time, um, I was shortly after that, right? This would have been before November
Okay.
of either 18 or 19. I can't even remember now.
Mhm.
And then we came down to Florida for the winter. And I was walking around Venice and I'm just walking and I just said, God, bring me everyone that needs their hearts healed. And people just started showing up.
You're gonna make me cry. Oh my gosh, this is so like okay, it's so profound and simple.
It's very simple.
Like, why do we complicate so many things, right? Like you just ask and just it seems like ask and it is given, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. And you know what? Really, Heidi, we never know how it's going to show up,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Ask and it is given,
Yep.
right? But if we have these like really big parameters around what we're asking for, like I want a uh, 2025 red Corvette that has bling, 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 and I want it by next month,
Yeah.
right? We have all these parameters.
Yeah.
And, that's not really, I mean, I would have a caveat to ask and it is given. Ask and it is given, and ask what fits
Mm.
with your
Mhm.
highest version of yourself, right?
That's
Because
next level, man.
you know what? Because as a human, do,
Yeah.
do we really know where anything's going to lead us? Like,
Mm.
what's supposed to unfold? What
Yeah.
have we chosen probably before we got here, right?
Yeah.
What have we chosen that we want to learn in this lifetime, that we want to experience, right?
Yeah.
So when we ask, just be in like whatever is really gonna, in
Yeah.
whatever way it shows up.
Yeah.
It might show up crazy.
How did you know what to ask? You know what I mean?
What do
Like
you mean?
if people are listening to this and they're like, well, like how did you know? Like it just kind of like came to you, like, I'm gonna ask this thing. Like, how did
Mm,
you know that that was even the right thing to ask? Because I think, a lot of times there's a lot of noise in the world
mhm,
and a
mhm.
lot of overwhelming stuff. And, like people are talking about manifesting and, blah, blah, blah. But like, how did you even know that that was the question? Really?
Mm. I think I think sometimes things will just drop in,
Yeah.
right? And it'll drop into your heart.
Okay.
And then our mind kind of gets in the way, right?
Mm.
It's like dunk, 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 right? The
Yep.
mind chatter hops in. And,
Hmm.
so then we question that little thing that dropped in our heart. And I think when something drops into your heart, like just drops in, like, even if you ask, like, well, how would I know it drops into my heart?
Hmm.
Just you get these little tickles, right?
Mm.
And when you get that, maybe don't try to analyze it.
Mm.
Just say, like, huh, I wonder what this is. Not, wow, what is this, right?
Mm.
I wonder what this is. I
Mm.
wonder what this could bring. I wonder how this will unfold. Like, we want to be 30 steps ahead in the future of what we want to create.
Okay.
What if our best creations are those little trickles, like little breadcrumbs, right? Little
Right.
trickles of something that lights your little heart up a little bit, right? And
Yeah.
instead of trying to figure it out 30 steps down the road, be like,
Mhm.
okay, I'm going to take the first step in this direction
Mm,
and see what that feels like.
yeah. Do you think that do you think that the heart space is easily accessible to everybody? You know what I mean? So like I feel like some people that maybe are up a little bit more cerebral, right? Could
Mhm, mhm,
listen to this and go, well, that sounds like woo. It can be dismissive of it.
mhm,
Right.
mhm.
So like what would you say to somebody who's like, well, I never get messages from my heart. Like, well, how would I even do that? Like what did you do to hear those trickles, whatever?
You know what? My first question would be,
Yeah.
are you willing to
Mm,
step out of judgment? Right? Like way back in, I think it was around 2017, 2018. I used to do some stuff with access consciousness, and there was this amazing person. Of course, she's still amazing. She's out there, Catherine McIntosh, and she had something called the no judgment diet. And, a lot of people would sign up for this thinking that it was like a diet to change your body. And, that's sort of attractive, right, for
oh
a
yeah.
million people, right?
Right.
But what I got out of it was hopping out of judgment about everything, right? Like, if I wasn't judging this,
What
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 what freedom is in there, right?
yeah, yeah.
So so that's sort of a judgment and your head, like being in your head,
Mhm.
a lot of times can go hand in hand, right? Because I mean, and listen, I used to I've always been very feeling, right?
Yeah.
But also very cerebral in terms of figuring it all out and analyzing it and just like in my head all the time, my
Yeah.
brain never shut off,
Yeah.
right? I was always like trying to figure it out. And I think when I started asking that question about the things that limited the persona of me,
Mm,
right, like it started to unravel. So I don't think anything, I wouldn't even judge being in my head, right? Like
mm,
if you're a person who thinks a lot,
yeah.
right? And tries to figure it out, okay, so what? Right? Like,
Mm,
so what? And then you could say, I wonder what my heart has to say about this. And just be willing to be a little quiet around that. Like,
mm,
you could keep your mind, you could keep all those
mm,
thoughts running through your mind. And
mhm.
sometimes you could just say to your mind, oh my gosh, we can have some really deep conversations, but I want you to go sit on that chair over there. You can have a pina colada at the same time, sit in the sun, have an umbrella, whatever, right? Watch the
Sounds good.
waves. And I'm going to drop into my heart for a couple minutes,
Mm,
right? What if you could just ask your mind to take like just the tiniest little rest
mm,
while you ask to drop into your heart? And maybe when you first start asking that question, your mind is still going to be going blah, 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 right? And you go, oh, hi mind. Hi mind. And it's okay. And say, okay, if you want to hang out here, that's okay, but we're going to be quiet for a minute and we're going to drop into our hearts. And then just wait. Just
okay.
wait. And then, you know, don't worry
Mm,
about getting it right. Like if you're meeting your heart for the first time,
mm,
right? Like if I was meeting you for the first time, I wouldn't know everything about you,
Mm,
right? I would
yeah.
only know like a couple things, right? Like,
Yeah.
like I'd be like, oh, she's cute, right? Like
Hmm.
that might be all I know the
Yeah.
first time that you and I have eye contact.
Yeah.
But then when I spend more time with you, like little by little, like I might spend 2 minutes with you, then I might spend 3 minutes with you. But then, even though I only spend 3 minutes with you, right?
Hmm.
Meeting over
Yeah.
and over and over again, pretty soon I'm going to know a little more about you.
That's
And
right.
I'm going to feel more comfortable with you.
Mm. That's so magical. I'm just like so mesmerized by you right now. I feel like, I mean, I just got back from like running in the cold. It's like 15 degrees here, and
Oh
I'm
my
like
gosh.
getting my energy, like my vibe up. And I was like running, and I'm like, I just feel like listening to you, my whole nervous system just went, and
Mm.
I'm just like, I feel like my heart even is just like, I mean, just being in your presence, Chris, my heart feels like it's this rose blooming. Like it's so
Oh,
magical.
that is so sweet.
Well, I mean, you spend a lot of time there, right? And so
Yeah.
how could it be any different? And that's why I really wanted to like get you on the podcast and share you and share your heart with like all the people that listen to our podcast. And I mean, there is this missing piece, I think, in definitely in the biohacking world, which we kind of come from that space, in spirituality and in whatever. And I feel like it's just so overlooked. And I think also that like it's just simple. Like listen to what she's saying, you guys. Like we just listen and we're quiet for 2 minutes and we go into our heart space and we get to know it. Like how could it be more simple? It doesn't have to be this overcomplicated, morning routine and whatever. And it's like, no, you just sit, right? And
Yeah.
listen. Yeah.
Yeah,
And not judge. And with a childlike curiosity, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be a this or that.
Mm,
It really doesn't. It doesn't
mm,
have to. You're a whole person, and
mm.
you've learned all these so super cool biohacking things, right? That
Yeah.
changes your life and changes your body chemistry and
Mm,
and actually changes your awareness, right? Because you're taking out all the crap that normally, you're anesthetizing. How do you say
mm.
that? Anesthesia,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Um, and if you are biohacking,
Yeah.
right, and you've learned how to change things in your body, change your body chemistry,
Yeah.
your heart is a part of that.
Mm.
Your heart is you, right? It's not this thing outside of yourself that sometimes comes on board,
Right.
right? It's you. And so if you really, really, really want to biohack, include all of you.
I love that so much. Did you guys hear that? Oh my God, that's so profound. I'm gonna have to go back. I was just thinking, I'm like, I'm gonna have to go back because like when you're hosting a podcast, I'm like right now and what's next, and like all that. I'm gonna have to go back and like study this. Like this is so good. I love I want to go back to the no judgment diet really quick
Mhm.
because I think that, like think about how in even let's just I mean, we'll pick on biohacking for a minute, but in so many different realms, like we are so conditioned that our diet is so a part of us, right? And even the word diet, like that's such a
Right.
die, like no. I call it nourishment. And I say, actually, how do I nourish my sacred temple? Like those,
Oh, you know what? That's beautiful.
yeah. I mean, we changed the language around that. And so when I think about like the no judgment diet, like how many people would be like, oh my God, sign me up, like for that. And then you get into the class and it's like, it's about judging, not at all about food and exercise. And, like,
Right.
whatever. Oh my God, this is so trippy. Does she still do that? Is that still like a thing?
She does, and I could
Yeah.
find out what I think she sort of changed the name a couple
Okay.
times.
Okay.
I think at one time she called it the Naked Revolution.
Oh my God.
Because it was like, people were so afraid to be vulnerable. And,
Mhm.
and people
Yeah.
go around hating their bodies. And, every morning I wake up, right? I'm like, hi, buddy. Hi, buddy. Hi, buddy. How are you, buddy? I love you, buddy. Right? I mean, like, just to touch every part of your body
Yeah.
and feel so much love for
Mm.
your body. And, your body has, ah, it has put up with you. You the being,
Yeah.
like you are this amazing being, and you so happen to have a body, right?
Right. Right.
And I believe we all chose what kind of body we're going to have this lifetime.
Okay.
You fit your entire big being into this little package,
Mm.
and then you expect this little package to just do whatever you tell it to do.
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
this, do this, do this, do this.
Yeah.
But you're in a relationship,
Mm.
right? You're in a relationship. And I'll tell you what, when I learned to love my body, like, oh, my body and I were in a fight probably my whole life from the time I was 11.
Really?
And when back in 2013, I broke my foot. And I had been on crazy diets my whole life.
Hmm.
And, and prior to that, going through maybe menopause and stuff like that, I kept putting on like 10 pounds every couple years.
Hmm.
I'd be fighting and fighting and fighting. So I break my foot and I can't move. And for a long time, and my husband's in charge of the food. And my husband is not into health at all. I mean, literally, he fed me things like hot dogs, hamburgers, ice cream, French fries, and chocolate. Of course, I demanded chocolate, but but other than that, and I was so concentrating on fixing my poor little foot
Yeah.
that I was not paying attention to my diet. Of course, I couldn't get up and move. I couldn't exercise. I was like an exercise maniac. I couldn't do any of those things. And finally, like months later, when I could actually get on the scale,
Yeah.
right? I'd lost like 10 pounds. And I thought, oh my God, my clothes are loose. I didn't even notice my clothes were loose. And I had been in this crazy relationship with the scale, right? Weighing myself every day and multiple times a day, judging the crap, right, out of me. Like body, right?
Yeah.
So I get on the scale and I think, oh my God, this is a judgment scale. And I put it in the cupboard. I wasn't ready to totally get away with it, but I put it in the cupboard and I was like, okay, we're done. We're breaking up. We're breaking up. And I started listening to my body and asking my body, what do you want to eat? What would nourish you? What would be fun for you? What would feel good? And I stopped paying attention to my weight at all. I am like my perfect body weight. I just kept every once in a while I'd pull that scale out and I'd go, oh my God, I weigh less again. But what happened is I got down to where my body loves to be. And it doesn't matter. I got COVID a few years ago and I literally could not eat for 2 weeks. Right. And so after the 2 weeks, and my husband kept saying, oh my God, you got to eat, you got to eat. And I'm like, no, my body doesn't want to eat. I got on the scale and I weighed exactly the same. I was like, body, thank you for taking care of me. I don't have to worry about starving and I don't have to worry about overeating.
Yeah.
My body just says, this is what we like. This is where we are. So getting out of judgment is like, it's not a penalty.
Wow.
It's a gift.
That is so inspiring. Like, I think, oh my God. I mean, for us women, right? Like how much
Right.
body dysmorphia and all the eating disorders and how much, how much we put our bodies through. I remember watching my mom as I was, a young girl, and she was out running all the time and always on some crazy diet, or in myself, like I've done a sardine fast, like that was the worst.
That's hilarious.
I read somewhere that it takes our body like 9 hours to digest a sardine. Like it's crazy amount of time. And I did it was a sardine, walnuts, and berries and bubbly water. That's all I could have, mineral water. It was, what's crazy though is I actually felt really good after. When I do juice fasting, I feel really good. My body likes that, right?
Yeah, me
Yeah.
too. Me too.
Yeah.
When I went on that, the pyramid retreat with
Oh
you,
yeah. Yeah.
I mean, the juice fast was amazing.
Yeah. Wasn't that good? Yeah.
So awesome.
Yeah. Just to catch up our listeners. So Chris and I actually met. This may be a good, little segue into that side of things too. So we met, Thaddeus and I, and our friend Washayla. And I think you came through Washayla, right?
Oh,
No,
I did.
Yeah, because you were listening to her.
Yeah.
So we run a pyramid retreat in Fort Myers, Florida, and Chris and Judy came. I can't remember what year it was, because we did it 3 years in a row, and I think you guys
a couple years ago.
Yeah, I think that was the last one that we did, because we didn't do it last year, and we're not doing it this year. But we could possibly do that again. It's so much fun. But we do a juice fast for 3 days. And I tell you what, being in the sun down in Florida and then fasting and then being around just amazing people with really high frequencies, sleeping in a pyramid, right? And then nourishing the sacred temple. I mean, we all leave there and we are so high. We're just blissed out, right? It's a bliss. Maybe you should call it bliss retreat.
I think that's a great name.
Yeah. Cause it was just it was really good. There was a little bit of stress for those of us who put it on, right? That's always a little bit more, but it was nice. We decided running a retreat with a partner and being able to implement breaks, because Thaddeus and I had run retreats before and we didn't get breaks. That can be really not feel so retreatful, Yeah. But doing it with a partner, because then Washayla could go retreat, and then go take a nap, and then she would be, teaching, and then whatever. So that was really nice. But that's where, this is how I met Chris, everybody. And maybe I should just share my little story about what we did that day. Well, I'm trying to remember how it even came up. But I think there's something that came up, Chris, and you came up to me, and correct my memory if I'm mistaken, but you were like, "Hey, I'm a heart healer," and you kind of just came right out and said that, and I was like, "What?" I don't even know what you're saying, and you're like, "I can," or no, you said you can use my heart to heal something that's on your heart, and I was like, what? What? Okay, that's interesting. So then I took some time to think about that. She just planted a seed, right? And I was just like, okay. So then I was like, you know what? I'm going to take you up on that. When should we meet? And so then we made a time, right? And we sat. I remember exactly where we were, and we sat at the pyramid. And you're holding my hands, and you're looking into my hands, and you guys this thing unfolded. I don't even know what started happening, but I was going through some stuff with some family members, and it sounds so I'm just open. You know what I mean? I'm just open. And here's this incredible heart healer woman in front of me holding my hands, just looking into my eyes, just I mean, I don't even know. And then this thing started happening where it started going round and round in our heart space. And I'm not going to get into all the details, but I felt something. I feel like you activated something inside of me that day. I'm going to get emotional again. Oh my gosh. And whatever the thing was that we were healing, right, I noticed had gotten less noisy after that.
Mm.
And I'm like, what happened here? Right? I don't know. Like, I'd like to hear your side of that. Like, how did that, was that kind of like what you
Yeah,
remember?
yeah, pretty much. I mean, it was something you said. You said something, and there was this message in it that said, "You're ready to
Oh,
change something." And I thought, okay, I'll just throw it out there.
oh,
And and then we just literally just did that. Like I'm not really doing anything. And the thing is we all possess this. It's not it's not just me and
mhm,
my little magical heart. Every person has this heart. You, Heidi, have this heart, right?
yeah.
And I think as people start to wonder about their hearts
Mhm,
and get acquainted with their hearts, this is going to unfold because we are living in this extraordinary time, right? 2025 is going to be wildly extraordinary. You know,
mhm,
if you're analyzing 2025 and you're in a lot of judgment about it, it could be a little bit scary or overwhelming and could feel like, oh my gosh, so many catastrophes and so many things are happening and this person is misbehaving and this ruler is misbehaving and this person in charge of this. And
mhm,
my thought about that is, oh wow, I
mhm,
wonder what all of this is going to create, because I know absolutely without a doubt that everything is always working out, right?
yeah, yeah.
So that could be something that people could maybe write down and be willing to just be in wonder
Mhm,
about it is,
mhm,
oh my goodness, if everything's always working out, I wonder what's going to happen in the long run, right? Because remember, I talked about breaking my foot.
yeah,
And I broke my foot in 4 pieces, right? And so, living in the moment, that was really tough, right?
yeah.
It was very painful, and, all the magic in the world did not change that level of pain,
Mm,
but what I knew for sure is it was limited,
mhm,
right? So, if we could think about 2025, right? Just being 2025, and there might be rough parts, there might be crazy parts, right? But it's limited, right? And oh my goodness, I know for sure it's going to create amazing things.
I mean, that's such a beautiful outlook on how do we manage, like the crazy in this world. And so many people go to fear, Chris, right? And fear and judgment, and they all just all intertwine together. And like I fall into it. I don't watch the news, and I still fall into, some of the stuff and the crypto market and, this and that. And I love what you're just like, reiterating of, this childlike wonder of like, wow, the observer. Isn't that the Zen? It's kind of like the Zen take on,
Yeah,
like what is, and just being really present too,
right.
right? And
And
then,
and you know what? Knowing that when we were born, when we came to Earth,
yeah.
we certainly came um, willing, right? And we wanted to be here. And we especially, I think, wanted to be here during this amazing time of transformation.
Mhm,
And, but we came to a planet of duality, right? There's right, wrong, good, bad, up, down, all of that stuff.
mhm,
And, so it's very normal. It's
yeah.
very normal to, be zen on this hand and be like, "Ah!" on the other hand, right? And it's okay. Like, you don't have to go, "Ah! Oh my God, I'm doing that again,"
Yeah.
right? And judging it. Be like, oh, yeah, right. Polarity. And then I like to just giggle at it because
Yeah.
you know what? Uh, laughter, smiling.
Yeah.
If you're in the middle of crisis and you just make your little lips go up,
Yeah.
you might be going, what the heck? But if you can make your lips go up, if you can make yourself smile, it does start to change
Mm-hmm.
your experience. And you don't really have to know what's going to happen next.
Right. Right. Well, and I think that's part of, like our human condition is like the unknown. Like, I mean, I'll speak for myself, but like, not understanding or not knowing, right, what's coming next. Like, how could we ever know that? But then, like our rational mind is like, well, what if, like I call it future tripping. So we start future tripping, right? And now we're not present. And it's like, okay, you living in the past, that doesn't feel good. Future tripping, well, that doesn't feel good. So all these ancient sages and teachers and all these people are always like, be present, right? I mean, that is part of like watching the movie of this go by and eat popcorn and go,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Wow.
it's really okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Well, thank you for sharing that because it's such an important message. I do want to just talk a little bit as we were just talking about future and past and talk about trauma because there's a lot of, I mean, how do nobody escapes trauma here, right? And so we talked a little bit about this yesterday, and some people go through life and they have what I call small t, and then there's big capital T, and the small trauma, it isn't any different than capital trauma, right? It's still traumatic. Like one person, just for an example, for our audience, somebody could say something to a person in high school. You're 13 years old. This boy says this thing to me, or, this person. And that could be this little piece of trauma that's, stored probably in your heart, right?
Yeah.
And that can really, manipulate your sense of reality through your whole life. Or it could be this huge traumatic thing, and that's a lot of times when people kind of wake up to like the reality of like, oh, it takes a traumatic event, right, to wake up into, well, what am the question of like, what are we doing here, right? Like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
I try to distill it down to like that one question. I think that one question, it works for toddlers all the way up to like, like people that are, close to leaving their body, right? And it's like, what are you doing? Kind of stops you in your tracks. But can you talk a little bit about like maybe your past and trauma that you've dealt with, and then how that kind of unraveled and played a part of like your own journey and your activation of your heart?
Yeah. Well, I think that we come in to have all kinds of experiences. And my guess is the ultimate goal in life is to love and be loved. And young lives, right, come in, and you think about people that are born to, maybe parents that just haven't caught on yet, right? And so not everybody has the best beginnings. And, I had quite a bit of trauma in my early life. Um, and, and then as a teen, some more trauma from outside my family, and as a young adult, and, some pretty big things happen. And, um, but you know what? All of it has created me. And so what if trauma is one way to get to where we're ultimately going, which is love, right? Like, what if it just totally is something different than what we think trauma is? When I was a therapist years ago, somebody gave me a little poster, and on this poster was it said, the symposium for people who grow up in functional families, not dysfunctional families, for functional families. And there were all these speakers, on the stage. And then there was one person in the audience. Because most people don't grow up with functional families, right?
Right.
So,
Right.
I did have trauma, and it certainly in my young life. I remember in college, I was so hilarious, so naive, um, thinking I was a psych major, right? So somehow I thought I should know it all, and
Oh.
I wanted to go to the counseling center so bad, and but I thought, oh, I'm a psych major. I should know this stuff. I should be put together. And most people that go into this field are not put together.
Yeah, right.
Trauma, right? And
Totally.
so then I graduate and I get this job as a drug and alcohol counselor. And I find out that practically all my coworkers are in therapy. I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. So I get this therapist that someone recommends, and I go see her, and I'm really excited. And she says something. I don't know what to this day, I don't know what she said, but she hit my trauma nail on the head, right? Oh man, I flew out of there so fast, I never went back. Well, no, I went back one time to tell her, actually, you know what? I'm having this really wonderful life, and I don't think I need you. And so I ran away again. And but then somewhere down the road, I had my daughter, and she's like 9 months old, and I'm walking on the beach with her, and I thought, oh wow, you better go see somebody. You're gonna mess this child up.
Oh my
So
God.
she was the motivating factor
Yeah.
for me to,
Cute. Cute.
go deal with it. So, if you have stuff going on, um, you don't have to keep pushing it underground.
Mhm.
I think it's also not a wrongness. It's all the stuff you came in to experience. And, if someone else was telling you about themselves, you would be so kind, right, to them.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so I think the real message is, like, oh, be so kind to yourself, and try to be kind to the people that created those traumatic experiences, because I believe you had some arrangements before you got here that you
Mhm.
wanted to experience lots of things. And, like sort of your soul family who's
Mhm.
coming in with you, they're like, I don't want to do that. I'm like, oh,
Mhm.
please. So they're willing to have all kind of trauma just to give you your experience.
Right.
What if it's, and it's okay if you don't believe any of that,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Just what if
Right.
everything is exactly perfectly as it should be,
I love that.
right?
Yeah.
That this is just, like a little pebble on the road. And sometimes you step over the puddle, sometimes you stub your toe, sometimes your toe gets cut on a piece of glass. You know, you could keep going and ignore it. Like, oh my gosh, I set off to do this 5 mile hike, and by golly, I'm going to keep doing, even though my foot is like bleeding um, profusely. Or you can stop and take care of your foot,
Mm.
right? But there's no right answer to that.
Yeah.
It's whatever you want to choose in that moment.
Right. So with okay, so say somebody's listening to this and they're like, but I keep replaying the trauma and it's keeping me from living my best life. Like, what would you say to that person?
Okay, first of all, that's a loop,
Okay.
right? That's
Hmm.
a loop. And the only thing to do with a loop is to keep looping or to stop, right? So when you find yourself revisiting that story, I would say that every time you revisit it, and if you find a therapist who wants to revisit it ad nauseum, get a new therapist,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Get a new
Yep.
therapist. So, you might want to tell your story once, right?
Yeah.
But there's things that you can do to move beyond it. And so that's a loop. But what if you put your hands on your body and you said, everything creating this trauma, I bless. Everything this trauma has done to me, even if I cannot figure it out, it's a blessing in disguise. It is, I am an unfolding of the miraculous being that I truly am. Thank you, trauma. You can go now. I love you. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And then every day, be like, everywhere I'm holding trauma in my body. Oh, sweet body. You don't have to hold on to that anymore. I know we made so many pathways and they're so familiar. They're so familiar. I just find myself going down the same path, sort of like driving. You want to get from A to B and you're not even aware of the road you're taking because you're unconscious, right?
Yeah.
So everywhere I'm unconsciously locking you in my body. Oh, sweet body, sweet body, sweet body, sweet being. I love you. I love you. You're okay. I love you. 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 Like literally do what you would do if I came to you and I'm crying and I'm like, oh, honey, this happened to me. You
Be
wouldn't,
like,
you wouldn't say, buck up, right?
Yeah,
You would
right.
go, oh my God, honey, let me hold you.
Yeah.
I've got you. I've
Yeah.
got you now. I love you. I've got you. You could do that for your body. You could do that because your body has stored all that trauma and believe me, it really did serve a purpose. It feels like it didn't, but I have gone back in my head and thanked and forgiven anybody that was a participant in my traumas, right? Because you can hold that in your body.
Yeah.
And so, but first you need to start soothing and loving your sweet body.
Thank you for doing that. That's so powerful. I mean, and again, you guys, simple. Like, this is so simple, right? Like, we should be teaching this in kindergarten.
That would be so nice, wouldn't
Right?
it?
Oh my gosh. Like learning.
Like Johnny hit me on the head and took my toy. Oh.
Well, and even, for men, like there's not a lot of space for that, and it's not masculine, and it's not tough, and it's not, and yes, men are that way, and that's like, I like personally, I like a manly man, right? I mean, my husband is like Thaddeus Primalhacker. And I love that he's so strong and brave, and he chops wood, and he, takes the spiders out of the house, and he does all the masculine stuff, but he also gives 20-second hugs, and he knows this stuff, this other side of stuff too. So I think, like, permission for men and tough women who are in their masculine, tomboys, that everybody, this is for everybody. And it's, and it's accessible, and it's free, and it's simple. Like, don't overcomplicate it.
And you know what? You could do it in the privacy of your being. You don't have to, like, if you're a guy, you don't have to be out there telling all the men, hey, get busy and start doing this. Let's have a group love fest. You can literally, I mean, that might happen.
That might be great.
Which would be really cool. But you could do it just in the privacy of your own little space, in your own, just a couple minutes. Like, hey, buddy, hi. Hi, wow. Are you holding any trauma? If so, I got you. It might not be the same kind of like, oh, sweet buddy, that I might do, but it might be like, hey, buddy, hey, everywhere I'm storing trauma in my body, right? I gotcha. I have you, body. I have you, buddy. You're safe with me. I have you, right? Like, they don't have to do it in my little feminine way, right?
Right.
Everybody can just be exactly who they are. You are perfect. You are perfect.
So beautiful. So yesterday when we spoke, we talked about how maybe, females and males process the trauma differently. Can you speak into that a little bit, Chris?
Um, I don't know. Refresh my memory.
Oh, okay. So I was just like, we were talking about trauma, and
Yeah.
I was like, I feel like are men able to process trauma? Because like us women, we're communicators, right? And we talk about stuff, and we do hold stuff in our body, and everybody does. And I don't mean to be like generalizing here, but it seems to me that there's an element of difference clearly. And then you pointed out to me like, well, hey, maybe like, because I think we went down the little bunny hole of like, do men hold the trauma in their body more because they're not able to express it and communicate it like girlfriends do and women do? And then you said, I think they process it a little bit differently, or maybe a lot differently. Is that
Yeah.
is that refreshing enough?
And right. And
Okay.
by the same token, um, when you think about women,
Yeah.
right, because you get more of an audience, right, and more women to share it with and be like, oh, that's so awful, right? Because a lot of women feel, right, what everybody's going through. So that kind of keeps you a little bit looped as well, right?
Right.
You know, men are different.
Yeah.
And, I think just that part of, hey, all these things happened to me, right? Maybe they let things go quicker if given the opportunity.
Yeah.
Just like I think we were talking about, men have a fight, they have
Oh,
a
yeah.
big
Yeah.
blah,
Yeah.
like
Like
fight. And 2 minutes later, they're like, hey, buddy, blah, 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 or calling somebody an a-hole or something, they're just like, they just, and they move on.
Right.
And, so they may be able to do that with the trauma. Like, so if you're a guy, you might go, I wonder what would work for me.
Yeah.
Like, because it's unknown
Mm-hmm.
what it's going to take to release it, but just the willingness to acknowledge that every experience we have in life is exactly the experience we were asking for on some level. That's not to cast blame, like, oh my gosh, I'm going to blame myself for this now. I had this person traumatize me and now I'm going to say it's my fault. No, it's not that. It's not that. It's not you, the human being. It's you, the soul being, right?
Yeah, right.
Helping you have all these experiences and helping you make these arrangements. And
Right.
so I think at first, if you can look at all experiences, joyous experiences and trauma experiences as experiences,
Yeah.
that would be the first thing, right? And then, if I was a guy, I might ask it different, like, hey, wow, that was a crappy experience. I've been feeling the effects of it for a long time. I always picked the wrong woman because, my older sister was just horrible human being, whatever. And I always picked that woman who's just like my sister, who hurt me constantly and made me feel like crap, right? Huh. Okay. Well, I must have, on some level, that experience, was contributing to who I am now. And if I was going to pick differently, I wonder what I would need. Maybe I need to heal that. Maybe I need to forgive myself for having that experience.
Right.
And maybe I need to forgive my sister. And I wonder what that would create. And maybe I need to be kind to my body and just be, hey, that was crappy.
Yeah.
Right? That was crappy. Let's move on.
Right.
What's really a good thing to do, It's an Hawaiian thing, Ho'oponopono.
I was just thinking of that. Literally, I was like, oh my God, I wonder if she's going to bring up Ho'oponopono.
Yeah, because you know
Yeah.
what? People could do that.
Yeah.
And there's like a million of them on YouTube.
Yep.
And literally, the funniest thing about that, it's like not really thinking about the other person. I mean,
Right.
if you say it,
Yeah.
you're really saying that Ho'oponopono prayer
Yeah.
to take all the crap out of yourself that you've been holding about this trauma,
Right.
right? And
Right.
so that can create miracles. I know people that have come out of addiction saying
Mm,
Ho'oponopono, repeat.
really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Because you,
no programs. Like they were in programs, but they were like,
yeah. So here, okay, so you say, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you.
yep,
Correct?
yep.
So I think sometimes people, when they first hear that, I'm not speaking for myself, but somebody who I recently talked to, they're like, well, wait a minute. They get confused. They're like, what did I do? I'm saying I'm sorry. And then they're like, and then please forgive me. They're like, but I didn't do anything. I'm the one who suffered. Right. So can you help us
Yeah.
not get tripped up on that? Like, how do you get past that?
Okay, so here's the twist. When you're
Yeah.
saying it, say about maybe you're saying about a trauma that, when I was a young adult, I was raped. Okay.
Okay.
So during that experience, right? Oh man, I was so full of hate for this guy who was a physician. He was my gynecologist, right? So I was so full of hate. I wanted him convicted. I wanted him to be raped repeatedly in prison, right? So I was having many, 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 many feelings, right? I was like 30 years old when this happened. And, I was like, phew, and I thought, I'll never forgive that guy, right? Okay, so it ends up that when finally it was going to go to trial, and what happened is every time we went before a magistrate, it got televised on the news. So more and more and more and more women came forward. So finally we got to this, oh my gosh, here's a crazy aside. I was only 30 and I didn't realize that's when I began healing hearts. Because I said to the police, all the women that call, just give them my number. And they started calling me and I would listen to their story and and empathize with them. So I forgot about that. So okay, I've been a healer of hearts for a long time.
Oh my God. You're so beautiful.
That's so funny.
Oh
So,
my gosh.
but think about that. All the like that was a big traumatic experience. But what
Yeah.
happened from that was I was able to really be there for all these other little ones. Some of them had been little tiny adolescents when this horrible doctor had done this, right? And
Oh,
so, but okay, so if we think about the Ho'oponopono prayer, right? So say I was still suffering from that rape and say I was still really angry at that doctor, right?
mhm.
And I was like, well, why would I say that prayer? I didn't do anything.
Right.
Like it was him. And what, how would this work? Actually, what it is you're saying that prayer to heal your own body. It's like everywhere that I have any seeds of this in me, and I believe it was my earlier traumas in life that opened the door for that to happen, right?
Right.
And so when you say this prayer, you're really saying it for yourself. It's like, I'm sorry that, I went through all of this. I'm sorry that this happened to me. I'm sorry. And then, really, like, body, please forgive me, right?
Mm.
I love you. Thank you. If you could think about saying this prayer for your own healing, right? It's about your own healing. It's about everywhere you hold within yourself the seeds of these traumas, of these experiences, right? We're meant to have these experiences to help us create the amazing beings that we really are, for us to recognize that we are love, right? And so we get to have all these experiences along the way, but unfortunately, we do tuck them into our body. So if you want to do the Ho'oponopono prayer, you could bring up these experiences and know that that will unravel and clear, right?
Yeah.
And the gift is when you unravel it and you clear yourself of it, you're also contributing to clearing that perpetrator, which can only be good because perpetrators continue to perpetrate.
Right.
What if they can begin to feel safe, to feel loved, to feel like the magnificent beings, the souls that they really came here to be, right? But you don't have to jump there.
Yeah.
Right. Because,
Right.
I would never have been able to jump there
Yeah.
at some point in my life. Right.
Mhm.
So you say this Ho'oponopono prayer. You can even put it on low. Like there's some of them on YouTube that maybe they repeat 108 times. Maybe they repeat for 7 hours, whatever. You could put it on really low and go to sleep. You could make a recording of it, because I know no biohacker has a phone by their bed, but
Right.
but they might be able to make a recording, right? And
Yep.
play this recording on very low volume, because even though you go to sleep, your ears do not.
Right. So you're programming the subconscious mind in that
In a loving way.
Yeah, in a
Very
loving way.
loving way.
Yeah. So just to get a little technical, do you like the Joe Vitale teaching of that prayer?
Yeah, I think, what I think, I would say listen to a number of them.
Okay.
And whatever resonates with you.
Yeah. Okay.
Because they're so different.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
They're so different. And there's one that this like old Hawaiian lady does that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And she like has all these little things that she says with it. And
oh my God.
and I remember coming across that and going, oh, I really like that.
Oh, that's cool.
So yeah, so just if you just Google it, a million of them will come up.
Yeah. Can you, Chris, do you know the backstory on the Ho'oponopono prayer? Just to give people remember the Dr. Akaliaki?
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
remember what he was doing?
Well, this was a really cool thing. I don't know. I think it's the story you might be talking about.
Yeah.
And there was a prison, I think, for the criminally insane.
Yep.
And staff just kept quitting because they just couldn't take the level of horror that existed there. They just couldn't even stay and remain and work. And no matter who came in to try to help these people, they would just up and quit. And
it was in Hawaii, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I'm not actually sure where it was, but I just know that it was somewhere.
Okay.
So they call in this doc, and what he does is he doesn't see any of the people. He asks for all their files. And every day he takes out one file of one of the inmates of this place. And he just remains in his office. And I don't know how many hours he does it, but he does the Ho'oponopono prayer. And really, this is the magic of it. He had no connection with any of these people, right? But he's literally clearing himself. It's like anywhere I hold any of this in my being, in my body, right? So he's doing it for himself, but he has this person's file in front of him. And pretty soon, every single person except for one person became mentally healthy and were released.
That is wild stuff.
So the best part of that is it wasn't personal, right?
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
was willing to say that prayer for himself, for
Wow.
them.
Right. Well, do you think it's part of too of like how people, because we can project, right? So it's part of the projection of, oh, I'm labeled this criminally, mentally ill, person, and here's this like doc going, no, I'm clearing that, right? Like you're not that. You're a beautiful, human inside there, and so he's now creating a different projection
Yeah.
onto that person.
Think about this. Like
Yeah.
we are all our own person, and we're all connected.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anytime you clear something in you, I
Ah,
believe it opens up the pathway
yeah.
for other people to go through it,
Mm,
right? Maybe people that you never knew,
right.
maybe ancestors, right?
Mm,
Maybe
mhm.
ancestors.
So we don't even have to be conscious of what it is. It just works through like time and space,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
My philosophy is be the joy that I be and know that everywhere my feet walk, I create a path of heart
Mm.
dust.
Oh my God. That's so beautiful.
And here's the really fun part.
Did you
You
hear
don't
that,
even have to,
biohackers? Sorry.
you don't even have to walk in those same footsteps, right? Like
Yeah.
we are quantum.
Yeah.
So anybody out there that says, wait a minute, I want some of that,
Mm,
all they have to do is ask because we know we're quantum.
mhm.
And all of those hard particles are in the quantum. I've, I've put them in the quantum, and so have so many other people. I'm not the only heart healer in the world. There's zillions of heart healers in the world. And everybody that gets touched by other people's hearts, they become heart healers in the world. So it's all you have to do is just sit quiet and say, okay, I'll have some of that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, you definitely activated something in me that day at the pyramids. And I mean, this is what I do with even my own clients. I'm like, I have an activated heart. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't even consciously know what is happening. But what I do know is like I hold a frequency, right? And then when I come in contact with the client or whatever, and we just unravel, really, I just listen with an open heart, and then they feel better, you know? And then they go out into the world, and like this is part of like what I do too, as professionally as well. And then now they're at a higher frequency,
Yeah.
right? They're at this love frequency and using their hearts, and then it just multiplies,
Yeah.
right? And yeah,
Yeah.
it's exponential.
Somehow, back when I knew nothing, right?
Yeah.
Right out of college, they don't even hire a therapist out of college anymore, but
Yeah.
I got hired by drug and alcohol. And immediately when I got hired, I knew I didn't know much, right? But what I did is that I had glasses then, and I decided to get rose-colored tint.
No way.
So I immediately ordered glasses with rose-colored tint. And because a part of me knew that when you are addicted,
Yeah.
oh my God, you get so much judgment from everybody.
Mhm.
And
Oh,
I knew if I could look at all these people struggling with drug and alcohol problems and all the consequences and getting judged all over the place, if I could look at them through rose-colored glasses and see their hearts and see the beings that they are, that it would begin to change things. And it did. I didn't know crap, but I knew that people needed to be loved.
you're
So
literally the coolest. I just have the best visual of you like sitting there with your rose-colored glasses on. Like, I want to get a pair of those. Like, where do I get those? I can see like in my imagination, right? Their hearts, like frames. Let's just take it to the next level.
I was taking it to the next level.
Oh my God. I feel like there's some kind of like business opportunity here.
I'm sure there is. Well,
Rose-colored heart glasses.
that's so funny. So I told a friend of mine I was going to be like on your podcast, and she goes, "Oh my goodness, are you going to start a business?" And I go, "Oh, Chris, I have no business having a business."
Oh my God. That's so awesome. Well, I mean, honestly, I want to share you with the world. And when, Thaddeus and I were talking about season 2 of the Primalhacker podcast, and you kept coming up in my field. So you're like, hey, I'm gonna share my heart with the world. And I wanted to share your heart and my heart, like with the world and with the biohacking community, 100%.
Yeah. Well,
So
maybe the next time you have a retreat,
yeah.
I'll come and I'll be the heart healer.
Ah, oh my God, I would love that. Okay, now I'm gonna be like, when's our next retreat? A lot of times, like Thaddeus and I, we love this place in Bayfield, Wisconsin, and it's called the Wild Rice Retreat. And like we did get a couple people up there, and Washayla did come up for one of our cold plunge, like northern Minnesota cold plunge. She didn't get in, but she went outside in her swimsuit, and it was like 0 degrees, but it's hard to get like our Florida friends to like come up here.
Maybe you could have it in the summer.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So that's what I was thinking. Like, when would be a really fun time? The only bad thing about summertime here is it gets buggy, as I'm sure you guys in Florida. Do you guys have a lot of bugs in Florida?
You know what? I leave about the middle of May.
Okay.
So but the bugs start coming out, around the middle
Okay. Okay.
of April.
All
And,
right. Yeah.
I have a bunch of oils.
Right.
Put them
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
And try to go.
Right. Right. Well, you know what's funny is Thaddeus. Okay, so he studies Dr. Jack Kruse, and Dr. Kruse talks about he's like a quantum what does he do? Light EMF and magnetism is kind of like his thing. And he talks about how we all give off a UV light in I'm not just our aura, but like there's like a sciencey thing, right? Like we give off a UV light. And some of us give off more of that UV light. Well, what happens when you get a bug zapper? It's a UV light, right? And then the bugs are attracted to it. And Thaddeus has like a UV lamp around him. He gives off so much light. Oh my God, we were camping one time with our kids, and we were in like the middle of northern, like Minocqua area in Wisconsin. And we had to leave. We had to go to the next like little town over. And we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, there's 7 of us, and all they had was 6 bug nets. So one person didn't get a bug net. And I was like, I'll take one for the team. I'm like, because Thaddeus had so many bugs around him, like he looked like a cartoon. I was like,
oh my gosh.
And I'm like, I didn't have that many around me. Like they were annoying, but it wasn't like, and I'm like, oh, the children. And then like, Thaddeus needs this more than me.
Oh my gosh. Well, I have not been able to accomplish this, but my friend Paul, who is this magnificent being, he just says, well, get out of bug consciousness.
Yeah.
And that's all he does. He just gets out of bug consciousness. There could be a zillion whatever flying around, and the people he's with are, he's like, get out of bug consciousness,
Yeah. It sounds easy, but
it sounds easy. I did attempt to do it, but then I put some oils on.
Yeah, right. Oh my gosh, that's so great. Oh, well, Chris, this has been so amazing. There's like literally there's 20 more questions that I have, but I'm just looking at the clock and I'm like, oh my God, we've already been talking for 1 hour and 20 minutes. I know. Like I could sit here and I didn't even know what time it was. Like this is how it is when you're like in your vortex.
Right.
So is there anything that, like that you want to share to kind of, end the podcast and, yeah.
You know what? This is what jumped into my head.
Yeah.
We're always looking outside of ourselves for experts and all these things, right? And I think you are the person that you've been waiting for. Like, I am who I've been waiting for. You are who you've been waiting for, right? And you really know. And this is 2025 and beyond. You know, there's so much light coming into the planet from the solar flares. And, you know, you might get a little symptomatic about it because you're just learning how to hold more light. And you're going to become more and 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 more aware.
Mm,
And really do the Ho'oponopono
yeah.
and begin and really, like, if you're a guy, you know, and you don't want to say, buddy, I love you, I love you, I love you. Just go, hey, buddy. I love you. I got you.
I gotcha.
Thanks for putting up with me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. And, you know, so
Mm.
whichever way fits with your persona and learning to be the kindness that you deserve, that your body deserves, do it in whatever way goes best with your personality, your being, because you have this. You are truly the person you've been waiting for.
Oh, thank you so much. That is so, I mean, like I feel like when I listen to you talk, I feel like I just want to hug myself and,
Yeah.
and try it out, right? And I would also, you know, encourage everybody to, like, you see what she's doing. If you're watching the video, if you're listening to the podcast, like, we're hugging ourselves, like we're putting our hands on our shoulders, and like I went to do that and I was like, oh, that's not quite comfortable. Like maybe it's here, right? And try it out and feel it, because how else, you know, like how else could you do it besides touching yourself, right? Like that sounds weird.
Right. But really, you
We'll end
know.
the podcast with that. Oh my God.
That's perfect. I love you, Heidi, and it's just
Oh,
been such a joy to, you know, see your
thank
face
you.
and
Yeah, thank
spend
you.
time with you.
You too. Thank you so much, Chris, for coming on the podcast. All right.
Mwah.
Bye, everybody.